Hello, I'm RetroJules. Czechoslovakian tanks are on their way. You're going to have some new tanks to play with, and we're going to get a new map too. So the new map is called Dukla Pass. It's actually based on a real battle location in World War II. Dukla Pass is located between Poland and Slovakia, and the map is going to feature quite an open map of rolling hills, grassy fields and villages. So it's going to be nice to have a new map to play, but more importantly, you are going to get to play the Czechoslovakian tech tree. It's a very simple tree. It's only one line of tanks. You've got 3 light tanks from tier 1 to 3, and then the rest of the tanks right up to tier 10 are all medium tanks. So let's have a look at what the tanks look like and roughly what they're about. So at tier 1 we have the Kolohousenka, a light tank, a prototype that never saw battle. At tier 2 we have the LT Vz.35, a light tank developed by Škoda. 300 of these vehicles were manufactured. At tier 3 we have the LT Vz.38, a light tank with a 37mm autoloader and a 3-shot drum with a very fast 5-second reload and a tough 50mm turret. 1400 tanks were produced. At tier 4 we have the ST Vz.39 medium tank, a small tank with good camouflage and a decent 10 degrees of gun depression and excellent penetration but very low alpha damage. This tank was never mass produced. At tier 5 we have the Škoda T-34 medium, a quite mobile tank for its size, one of the highest tier 5 shell penetrations for a medium, with good gun depression, but it's got a slow reload time, a fragile ammo rack, and a large cupola limits your hull down tactics. No prototypes of this tank were made. At tier 6 we have the Škoda T-25 medium, good top speed and acceleration, fantastic gun depression, thin armour and quite a large tank, poor alpha damage, and this tank favours peekaboo tactics. I think it's sort of comparable to sort of the CDC, Chasseur de Char sort of tank. No prototypes of this tank were made. At tier 7 we have the Konštrukta T-34 100 medium tank. Now this was going to be the Czechoslovakian version of the Russian T-34 85 but with a 100mm cannon, and it's going to do excellent alpha damage with excellent penetration but poor gun depression, a long aim time and poor acceleration and manoeuvrability. This tank never entered production. At tier 8 we have the TVP VTU Koncept medium, with good manoeuvrability, a decent 88mm cannon and good turret traverse speed, but it's got a large profile with weak armour, poor accuracy over distance and a dreadful grind from the stock tank. No prototypes of this tank were made. At tier 9 we have the Škoda T-50 with a fantastic autoloader, good top speed, an agile nifty tank, but it's got a tall silhouette and very thin armour. This tank was never produced. And finally, this is probably the tank that makes the Czechoslovakian tech tree on paper worth playing. It sounds like the T-34 100 could be a decent tank, and this one could be too. This is the TVP 50-51 medium, the Czechoslovakian equivalent of the Batchat. A very short drum reload, extremely short reload between each shell, very high top speed and traverse speed with excellent power to weight ratio, good gun depression, aim time and accuracy. But it does have the worst penetration of all the tier 10 mediums, and it is quite large. And surprise, surprise, no prototypes were made. It would appear that for whatever reason the Czechoslovakians didn't really have an awful lot of luck with designing and producing tanks, and out of those 10 new tanks for you to play with, only 2 of them, the LT Vz.35 and LT Vz.38 at tier 2 and 3, were actually produced as tanks. All the other 8 tanks were prototypes and never produced. That doesn't really mean anything. I mean, one of my favourite tanks, the American T-29 tier 7 heavy, was a prototype, and I absolutely love that tank. So hopefully you enjoyed having a look at what they're going to look like. We already had a clue that these tanks were coming, and thank you to Kaneda Tachibana, who sent me a little message and said if you bring up your filter on your garage, the Czechoslovakian flag is already there, ready to filter the new tanks. So it's going to be good to see some new tanks on the battlefield. I don't really think these are groundbreaking tanks. Just looking at them on paper and looking at the way they look, I think that maybe the T-34 100 could be a decent tank. I think that maybe the tier 10 TVP 50-51 is going to be a decent tank. And the Škodas and the rest of them, not really sure. Don't feel as excited about these tanks as I did about the Japanese heavies. And I say that, I still haven't played the Japanese heavies. I just haven't had time to go onto that tech tree. But I really enjoy the challenge of those heavies when I'm out in the battlefield, because when you face one, you really do have to change your tactics as to how you're going to play and defeat some of those heavily armoured beasties. So hope you enjoyed the video and found it some use. Keep safe, keep tanking, and I'll see you soon.